I noticed that I started tripping as I walked. And the last thing that made me finally contact the doctor was when I was giving a presentation and I noticed that I was having a hard time pronouncing the words that I was saying. It was a case of not telling me anything, but seeing them nodding at each other, as in like, yeah, we know what's going on here, but we're not going to tell them anything. As I was busy translating that book, and I really didn't want to talk to anyone about it, I didn't want to even have to think about it, more than just typing like symptoms on Google and saying that it could be this, that, and that. And I was like, all right, so brain tumor, something else, or multiple sclerosis.
Seb Mortensen, welcome to the MS Mindset. How are you?
Very well, Liam. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I'm good. It's really great to finally catch up because I think we've been sort of following each other's YouTube channels for quite a while and leaving comments and things like that. So it's nice to actually have a conversation and albeit virtually, be face to face. But yeah. So you are all the way over in Spain at the moment.
That is correct.
Yep. Brilliant. So not too much of a time difference. We managed to work with the hour. That's absolutely fine.
Luckily, there's only that one annoying hour.
Yeah.
that makes it weirdly difficult.
Sometimes it does, yeah, depending on evening routines or afternoon. But yeah, we've managed to get there. So are you born and raised in Spain, or did you move to Spain?
Not at all. I don't know if you want me to tell you my whole life story, but basically, I'm half Danish, half Mexican.
Oh, okay.
But it's a bit of a mess because on top of that, I was not born in either Denmark or Mexico. I was born in Brussels, and I grew up in Italy.
Okay, so half Danish,
right.
Half Mexican, born in Brussels, live in Spain,
raised in Italy, and then I did my high school in LA, wow. and then I spent my 20s in Denmark. So that made a little bit more sense.
Yeah, I guess so, but albeit, a very, I don't even know what the word is, very cultured, I guess, and well-traveled.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what brought you to Spain then? Why Spain? As it being that it's not any of the places that you were linked to originally.
No. But since I was like a teenager, Barcelona, which is where I'm based, has been like at the top of my list of places where I wanted to live.
Yeah.
And when I fell in love, I met someone living here in Spain. I was living in Denmark at the time, and living in a dreary, rainy, cold country. Like all of a sudden, the idea of moving to a sunny country was super attractive to me, and so I did it. I packed up all my stuff and I came down here to Spain. Fantastic. It's now been 6 years that I've been living here.
Wow, that's a hell of a journey, and nice to settle somewhere that you've always wanted to base yourself. So I'm a big fan of any and all the countries that you've been to. So I think I'd be happy to base myself in any one of them. But yeah, lovely. So we both have YouTube channels that primarily talk about multiple sclerosis, which we both have. So I just wanted to ask you, so is it relapse and remitting that you've got?
It is according to the doctor.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same kind of suspicion with mine. There's not much.
We're at that stage.
Not much remittance, it seems. More of the relapse.
But... No.
So where were you based when you found out that you had MS? Which of the many countries were you in? Denmark. Okay.
No, I was in Denmark. Yeah. Copenhagen.
And how long was it then from being in Copenhagen, discovering you had MS, before you ended up in Spain? What was that kind of time frame? Just as a bit of background.
2013 to 2018. Yeah, it's 5 years that I spent in Denmark.
Okay.
Fighting, like biking through the rain and the cold, like shivering all over the place, and it was tough.
Yeah, you've got to
because life in Denmark is tough.
Yeah,
like Danish people, they really, or we really pride ourselves on being like tough and being able to endure tough circumstances.
Yeah.
So no, all of a sudden I felt like I didn't really have that thick skin anymore, and I didn't really want to face those difficulties. Like I had enough in my daily life already. So
I suppose as well, if you are struggling and the weather's miserable, it's hard to pull yourself out of that. And I suppose if you've got lots of vitamin D and a nice bright environment, then perhaps it's a little bit easier perhaps to manage, to deal with things.
Exactly.
So what was your diagnosis experience like then? How and when did you discover, you mentioned obviously you were in Brussels, 2013, I think you said. What was happening at the time? How did you kind of...
I was in Denmark.
Yeah.
I was in Denmark at university. And I was still a student at the time. And I was basically translating a book, and it was a huge book. Like, it was a colossal project that I was involved in. So I noticed that I had been developing like double vision, getting increasingly worse as days went by. And then more symptoms started piling up, such as like I had a hard time typing, which is not ideal when you're busy translating a book.
Definitely not.
And then I noticed that I started tripping as I walked. And the last thing that made me finally contact the doctor was when I was giving a presentation, and I noticed that I was having a hard time pronouncing the words that I was saying. So then I called the doctor, and my GP sent me immediately to the hospital because they said that they couldn't do anything about that it was best to go to a neurologist. And I was there at the hospital for 3 days and 3 nights, having them run all sorts of tests on me, and until they announced the diagnosis.
Wow. And so what was that like then for you in terms of the doctor? Did they give you any kind of understanding of what it might be, or was it a case of, listen, we're not sure, off you go to hospital?
It was a case of not telling me anything, but seeing them nodding at each other, as in like, we know what's going on here, but we're not going to tell them anything.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a very uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I've spoken on other videos and other podcasts where I feel like I'd almost figured it out myself up until the point of diagnosis, and the neurologist at the time, I think, almost threw me off a little bit until my partner arrived and was able to then break the news. It was a little bit of a dip and a roller coaster, but I suppose there was a little bit of me that was then able to almost pre-process, is that phrase, but start to try and come to terms with certain things. Whereas yours obviously hit you like a bombshell. What was that like when you got the diagnosis?
No, I actually saw that video that you're talking about, and I could totally relate to it, because as I was busy translating that book, and I really didn't want to talk to anyone about it. I didn't want to even have to think about it more than just typing like symptoms on Google and saying that it could be this, that, and that. And I was like, all right, so brain tumor, something else, or multiple sclerosis. So the context is that I was 27 years old, and I had a cousin in Mexico who died of a brain tumor when she was 28.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I had that looming over me. And when I saw brain tumor, I was like, no. Multiple sclerosis.
Yeah,
I'm going to be fine. I'll take that instead anytime.
It's not a great menu to choose from, really, to be honest, is it? But I suppose, the survival rate, I guess, is more favorable.
Yeah, exactly. So, same as you. When I heard the diagnosis, I was sort of prepared to it. So when the doctor broke the news, it was on my radar. And I was sort of expecting it, and out of the possible options, it was definitely the least worse one.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of a hint of relief.
Yeah, I guess so.
Whereas my partner, who was sitting by my side when I got the news, started breaking out in tears and like unconsolably crying and holding, and I was like calming him down, like, it's going to be fine.
It was like the role reversed. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So, it was a bit of an absurd experience that when I think about it, but yeah.
Yeah. So in the moment, you're just sort of dealing with it, aren't you? But now you're looking back, quite the bombshell. And I think that can be quite, well, it certainly was in my respect as well. My wife, well, my now wife, she was a lot more upset at first than I was. And I think perhaps there was the shock factor, of course. I was okay. I'm not really sure I fully understand what it is, but okay, let's now we know what it is. You know, the process starts. But I think she was a little bit more Well, a little bit more clued up on what it was, but I suppose, again, the extremes that we probably started to see more when we first were diagnosed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was just, and I guess you do go through a bit of a grieving process as well, don't you? So there's that delayed
Absolutely.
kind of emotional reaction
It
to
hits you later.
Yeah.
In my case, it hit me like, I would say like a year later.
Wow.
It took me like months of being in denial, really. Just, I felt like there was a sadness coming over me, but I was just like, nah, but it's nothing. It's nothing. And then all of a sudden, bam, it hit me and I got super depressed and yeah.
Was that influenced perhaps by any new symptoms or anything? Were you sort of semi-coping with what you had, starting to deal with it, and then hit you harder because had you seen more progression or more relapses or anything like that?
It was realizing that despite the fact that there was medication, that there was a way to prevent the progression from being too violent, that the progression was still going to be there. And I was noticing that in my body, that it was, even though there were no relapses as such, no new symptoms as such, but there was a gradual worsening of my whole situation.
Yeah. And I think that kind of goes back as well to our sort of suspicions of the whole relapse and remitting diagnosis, because I've certainly found that I've never, I still have all the symptoms I've ever had. None of them have ever gone away, and they're only gradually getting worse. Yet I have relapse and remitting, not anything else. So whether it's a slightly different variation, I don't know. But yeah, I think when you start to notice the impact more, I suppose that it's natural that your emotional response to it is going to increase as well, and you're going to start to find it harder to deal with.
Absolutely. And it also made me question my whole future existence. What was going to happen to me in the future? What kind of career did I want? Because I was a bit of an academic at the time, so I really wanted to be dedicate my life to being it submerged in my books, doing research. But all of a sudden there was just too much information for me to take in. And I felt that my brain was not able to process all that information anymore. So I was really questioning, what is it that I want to do with my life? What can I do from now on with my life?
What options are available? I guess at that point you assume everything's going to be limited. And so had you noticed quite quickly then more cognitive sort of changes in the way you were sort of able to process information or manage sort of new material and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I remember being in conversation with some pretty eminent professors, trying to remember the title of a book. But even though I had read the book 2 days before, I couldn't remember the title. So that's when it dawned on me that, okay, maybe I've got to reconsider what I'm going to do about my future.
Yeah. And that's quite a significant thing to have to try to think about when you feel maybe that you've already made a lot of those important decisions. You're already on the path that you're trying to go down, and the academic structure that you were already in, and then suddenly to think, actually that might not be the case. I can imagine that was quite. Yeah, I can imagine as you've started to figure that out, naturally you're going to find it difficult to deal with.
Yeah. And that was a year after diagnosis that I was talking about, that depression hit me.
Yeah. And hit you, it does.
Yeah.
So how far or how much time was remaining sort of left in your studies at the time? So where were you on that sort of journey, and how did you find the remainder of the time studying?
I had a year left of my master's degree, after which I was the plan the whole time had been for me to complete my master's and then apply for a PhD. But everything having been redefined, I no longer had that in my plans. So a year after that moment, that's when I graduated from my master's degree and had to find a way to make things work.
Yeah. So you were able to complete the master's, but then you didn't then go on to do the PhD that you'd hoped to do at the time.
Correct.
Yeah. So obviously, having followed your channel, and I suppose I can address you by your more familiar name of Life of Seb.
Yes.
Your life, for those that perhaps, and I imagine there'll be lots of people that are watching this because they are part of your audience and will know your story and your journey. But there will be some people that are perhaps from my channel or people that have come across from the YouTube, from the Instagram community that perhaps don't know your story and may be surprised to learn that having been incredibly academic, you went completely the other way and did something amazing and completely different. What was that change like, and how did you sort of decide to do that?
Well, the change was based on the fact that I needed more stability. As some of you may know, the academic career is very unstable and very uncertain. And I felt like having MS, I had enough uncertainty in my life already. So I wanted to have like a full-time, regular desk job. And that's what I ended up doing. Yeah. And I found a job in Barcelona, which on top of having found my partner in Barcelona, I was like, all right, well, this is a perfect combination. So I'm just going to go for it. And it's now been 6 years that I've been doing this desk-based job. And on the side, I'm also a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
So I do that for fun once in a while. Yeah. I used to do that as a profession for a little bit as a side job. But now I'm, because of lack of time and lack of energy and lack of predictability of my energy levels, I also do it more like sporadically for fun.
Yeah. And are those sort of class-based? Do you do home yoga or in sort of outside in your garden maybe, or a bit of everything? Yeah. How have you found yoga as a way of dealing with it? So obviously you decided to teach yoga, and I think that's just incredible to have gone down that route and given that a try, because it's something so positive to come out of something so negative, which I always think is great when there is a positive to come out of it. What was that whole teaching experience like for you?
Wow, that was like such a rush of emotions, because I've been practicing yoga for years before taking the teacher training. So then when I signed up for it, I remember crying just because it was a dream coming to fruition, despite the fact that I had multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I don't care if I have a hard time. I don't care if I suffer. I'm gonna do this because this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that was like taking a dream off my checklist.
Yeah.
So then I completed it, and I felt like it really made me come out definitely of that depression that I mentioned. It was like, all right, oh, that's it. Now I'm a new person now, and I can be reborn as that person that I have always dreamt of being, namely a yoga teacher. Yeah. And this is who I'm going to be from now on. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore, because I'm not actually a yoga teacher, but I was a yoga teacher for a while.
Yeah. And it's even though it was perhaps a shorter time than you would have liked, the ability to see that dream to fruition, as you said, must have been a hell of an accomplishment and a sense of achievement.
Yeah. Yeah, because the fact of being in front of a class of 40 people and being the one, despite you having a physical disability, you being the one demonstrating the poses to all these people and having them look at you and being like, like taking instructions from you, even though they see that you have a physical disability. It was such an empowering moment for me.
I can imagine. Yeah. I think it's amazing. And you do hear yoga mentioned quite a bit when talking of MS, because I think it tends to be something that perhaps if someone else who doesn't have MS is talking to you, they might suggest it because it's something perhaps that someone's mentioned to them, or they see the benefit. So how have you found yoga as a practice itself, regardless of teaching, but for your own well-being? How have you found that as a way of managing your symptoms?
I can't really think of a single symptom that I've directly addressed through yoga. I think yoga is more of a way of keeping everything more or less stable, so that you don't have like these surges of like worsening of some symptoms, or it just keeps everything a little bit softer, like under a certain threshold. It keeps it under control. Let's put it this way.
Right.
Like the spasms, like the muscle tightness, I notice that when I don't practice yoga for a while, that when I wake up at night to go, for example, to the bathroom, I will shake out of control. My legs will shake out of control.
Yeah.
Whereas when I've been doing yoga for a while, I will notice immediately that that's not quite as bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it keeps everything a little bit under control.
And you find that there's that sort of physical strength or physical strengthening of your body, but also that mental strength and determination that.
Yeah, absolutely. Mental through determination, of course, as you said, but also a way of controlling your emotions so that you don't go that much through those roller coasters that that multiple sclerosis sadly puts us through. It keeps you a little bit more level-headed.
Right.
And of course, that's a bit of a cliche with yoga, but it keeps you a bit more zen.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to sort of sum it up there. It does, I suppose, zen, or that kind of inner peace, that almost like tranquil feeling of calm that isn't really a luxury when you live with MS. And if you can therefore find something that gives you a sense of being a bit more centered, then that's a great position to be in, out of all the many positions that yoga, I'm sure, puts you in.
Absolutely.
I found recently as well that I've sort of been dabbling in a little bit of meditation, which I guess links very nicely to yoga in that it's more about that, what's, that feeling inside and that calmness and recentering yourself back into the, into where you're supposed to be. Is that something that you found complements it well? Do you still practice meditation, I suppose, with it being less physical as well?
I'm not that good at meditation, I have to admit. No, no, because I mean, I do try to practice it, but when I go, when I do yoga, I'm more there for the physical practice.
Yeah.
Then the meditation comes through the physical practice.
Right.
And that's my way of meditating. Whereas just sitting still, I'm sadly not that good at doing that. I do meditate before going to sleep.
Right.
That I have to say. And that is very helpful. But I do have that in my task list that I want to become better at, like just making myself sit down, close my eyes and meditate, do nothing but meditate.
Yeah. And it's something that I think at first as well, if it's not an area that you've perhaps, explored much before, you maybe feel a bit silly, sitting there and thinking, surely I should be doing. I'm just sat. What can I do?
Yeah.
And with, I suppose, exercise or looking at things from that perspective, that's one arm of things that we're often encouraged to do, and do as much exercise as we feel that we're able to do, or find exercises or sport, whatever it might be, that you feel that you can do. And the other link, I guess, with that is diet. Now, you've done a few videos recently about the Walls Protocol, which is a book I own, a book I have flicked through, and it's usually on the shelf just behind me. But I've recently lent it to a personal trainer friend of mine who's helping me with a few bits, and he wants to have a look through it.
Okay.
But, you've been going through that. Anyone watching? So Dr. Walls was a doctor. She was studying, doing her rounds, training to be a doctor, got a very aggressive, quick onset of progressive MS, was in a vertical wheelchair, and then started to study diet as a way of coping with that. Has a book out and other things that you can follow. So you've been following that diet and trying to stick to it, I guess, as best you can. What's that experience been like for you? How have you found it?
Very good, to be honest. It may be a little bit tough sometimes to just say no to things, even though it looks so like appetizing, but you have to say no because you want to stick to your diet, because you will see when you start the diet that it works. It's, at least in my case, I noticed immediately that there were some improvements, not only physically, but also mentally. Okay. I noticed that I was thinking more clearly.
Wow.
So I think the hurdles that you may encounter, you can surpass them with the thought that you are feeling better. Now, whether it's going to help you heal, I don't like the word healing, but that's the word that's been thrown out there.
Cure, I think, is another one that we tend to
cure
hear.
Is another one that makes me cringe. But it doesn't necessarily make the symptoms go away, but it will make them just a little bit better. At least that's what I have experienced. And I'm going to be 100% honest here and admit that I have sinned here and there, and I have had a few bites of pizza. But nevertheless, here I am, and I'm still thinking clearly.
Exactly. And I suppose a 95%, 99% Wall's diet is much more beneficial than not giving it a try at all. And I commend you, because I think out of anything, I've found dieting to be the most challenging, the most difficult for me, because I have an incredibly sweet tooth. I do like to treat myself to a drink or a slice of pizza or two as well. And I feel that with MS, we're always having to think about what we're not allowed to do, what we shouldn't do, what we can't do anymore. That denying yourself of life's luxuries does feel a little bit harsh. But again, it's more so what you give yourself in following it, in that you give yourself perhaps a better quality of life, or a lessening of some of those symptoms.
Yeah, that's where we have to look at it. Because you're taking something away, but you're getting something back in return. So try to look at it that way.
Definitely. And the phrase I use it all the time. I think every video I've done recently, I've mentioned, I always say it's negotiating with your MS. And it's almost saying, right, well, if I stop this or I don't do this, can I have this back? Will you leave me alone a little bit? So I guess that sits into that quite nicely. What's the sort of the best benefit from it then that you found? Is it the brain fog, or what did you notice first?
Ooh, the brain fog. That's a good one. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a very concrete example here. In the morning when I go to work, I take the train and I take the metro. And I'm usually surrounded by tons of people, by noise, by chaos, people moving around. And before being on the protocol, I really couldn't handle any kind of information. Like I couldn't even read a book, because I felt like I had like a mental overload just because of the confusion that was around me, because of the sounds, all the stimuli that I had. A week into the protocol, I noticed that, hey, I feel like listening to music. I just put on my headphones and I listened to music, and then was like, all right, well, this is working nicely. And I feel like reading the news as well. And now that I'm blocking out the noise from outside, I'm able to read the news. So they're sitting in the train with other people around me. I was able to read the news. Wow. And that was, to me, was a clear example that my brain fog was getting better.
That seems like it's obvious to you that you're like, right, I'm actually seeing and feeling some benefit here. There's something that I would normally do that I feel I'm up to doing now.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible.
And then also the number of people who just came up to me, like my family, came up to me and said, like, straight out, without me saying anything, like, you look so much better. And not look, not physically, not my appearance, but just my symptoms, the way I was moving.
Energy, the way you present yourself.
Yeah. I had more initiative, more control over my movements. Just generally better.
Yeah. It's incredible, and it's certainly something that is inspiring me to perhaps pick up the book again and give it another go. I mean, something that I have done quite a bit in the past, and I've done a little bit of recently, and I'm trying to do more of is intermittent fasting, because that I do find that it tends to be food or what you eat, when you eat, how much you eat, tends to have quite a big link to inflammation, and how how much more pain I might feel in terms of that sensation in my legs, and how lethargic I might feel. But when I fast, I do notice that I do have that little bit more energy and perhaps maybe a little bit more cognitive awareness. So that was tough to get started, but I'm glad I did, and it's something I want to carry on doing. But I suppose if I can.
How many hours of fasting do you do?
So I've explained this to my wife recently as like a beginner's kind of, or an intro to intermittent fasting, because she wanted to try it purely because she saw that I, looked better, felt better, at least a bit when I was fasting. So she wanted to give it a go. But like me, she doesn't really like to go out without having a bit of breakfast, and likes to have a few snacks here, and we enjoy food. But the easiest way to start it is to try and do a 16-hour fast, which sounds like a lot, but for me, I would tend to do, if I know I'm going to fast, then I'll say, right, let's say, for example, I'm going to fast tomorrow. When I get home now, I might eat slightly later than I normally would. It's, we're coming up to 7 o'clock nearly here in the UK. I would probably be, just about to sit down maybe and have some tea. So I would say I would try not to eat anything past 8 o'clock in the evening. So I'll have my evening meal. I may even have a little snack and maybe a glass of wine. And then in and around 8 o'clock, we'll say, then I'd say, right, I'm starting my fast now. So from then on, I'll have a glass of water when I take my tablets before I go to bed. But it'll just have some water. That'll be it. And then I'll go to bed. So I'm only up for another couple of hours or so, and then I'll go to bed. So then I'm going to sleep through the next, 6, 7, 8 hours of fasting. Yeah. That's done. So when you wake up, then that's when it's the challenge sets in, because routine would suggest that, I want to get up, I need to have something to eat, I need to have a little snack because I'm hungry on the way to work maybe. And then, someone in the office has brought some donuts in, or there's some fruit or whatever it might be. That's the challenge. That's the only bit you have to overcome. And that's when you wake up in the morning. Obviously you have a glass of water if you're having your tablets, and we'll continue to drink water as you should. If you like a caffeinated drink, maybe it's a tea or a coffee, I just don't have any milk. So I'll have a glass of water in the morning. I'll then have maybe a black coffee or two as I start my day. And as I'm getting busier, my mind's distracted and I'm having a coffee as I normally would. And then before I know it, it's the middle of the day. So all I've done really, if you break it down, is skip breakfast.
Yeah.
I've been able to have a snack after my tea. I've had maybe a drink. And then I've got up in the morning and I've had a bit of black coffee, and then before I know it, it's midday. So from 8 o'clock to midday, there's a 16-hour fast done.
Yeah,
easy.
It's actually not that difficult.
No,
it's actually not that difficult, and there's more and more like articles coming out and like regular media and newspapers saying that fasting is proven to actually be beneficial for many conditions. So there's no reason why. In my case, there is a reason why I don't fast, and that is my tremors.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. When I get hungry, I start shaking too much, like out of control. So it became unfeasible.
Yeah. And I suppose that's a nod, isn't it, to the fact that even if, we both have relapsing remitting MS, but our symptoms and those symptoms that even symptoms we both have, we might have them different severities, or I might have one that you don't, and I might react differently to certain things. So I guess any message to anyone watching or anyone listening that wants to try it, it's listening to your body, isn't it? And understanding what works for you. So I'm finding fasting to be quite beneficial. You're finding the Walls protocol something that once you've got into a routine with it is really helping you.
Yeah. And actually, I don't want to be like a one-sided ambassador for the Walls protocol, because everyone will find a different diet that will suit them better than the other.
Yeah.
There's people saying that the carnivore diet made their multiple sclerosis go away, or the vegan diet, or the
very opposite diets though.
Exactly.
Only eat meat. Only eat meat. Eat anything but meat. Eat the
Just to show you how different people can be.
Yeah, exactly. And you could swap those diets and have a completely different experience, I'm sure. So it's
exactly.
Yeah, really different. So do you want to give us then, for anyone who isn't familiar with the Walls protocol, give us a bit of a synopsis of the general kind of concept of it, and the things you try to stick to, and the things you have to avoid? What's the kind of overview?
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the...
Sorry, without making you an ambassador of the Walls Protocol, but as you're going through and trying it.
Which I am not.
Yeah.
So there are three different levels of the Walls Protocol. I'm doing the most basic one because the third most advanced level, that gets a little bit too extreme for me. And that involves intermittent fasting as well.
Oh, okay. Which you've already said is a no-go, really. Yeah, okay.
Not viable for me. No. This most basic level that I'm following pretty much entails that you eat gluten-free and dairy-free. Okay. And gluten-free then means that you can't have wheat, you can't have, gluten. What else contains gluten?
No bread, no beer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is gluten-free beer though.
There is, so and it's not that bad. There are some good, more and more, there's better ones coming out.
Honestly, I've been drinking that for so long that I don't even notice. I don't remember what it was like before. The gluten-containing beer.
Yeah.
No dairy. So that means no milk, no cheese, no yogurt. And you'd be surprised how many things actually contain both of these two things, gluten and dairy, without you thinking about it. So it takes a little bit of work, you getting your head around what may contain gluten. And then if you go to a restaurant and ask if they have anything, even though the menu looks perfectly safe from a Walls perspective, then you ask and it turns out that everything contains gluten and dairy. So you have to be a little bit careful. Yeah. But the upside, the plus of this diet is that, lo and behold, corn is gluten-free. So that means you can have tons of tacos, Mexican food, tons of Mexican food.
Yeah.
Which is what I've been having.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't have bread, but I have corn tortillas.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah, there's some compromises you can make there, and even like a tortilla based pizza with maybe dairy free cheese. There are some now, I guess. Vegan cheeses are a bit difficult, aren't they?
Yeah. I'd rather just skip the cheese bit and just like live with the idea that I'm not gonna have cheese.
Yeah, but then you maybe treat yourself to a slice of pizza every now and then because you're doing the hard work, really, aren't you? And you
exactly
a little treat here and there.
And then and then with the family, if we want to have a good time, then I'm not going to be the one being annoying about it.
Yeah, we can't eat there because they don't. Yeah, if you want to just you've earned it, really, haven't you? I guess.
Yeah, that's the way I want to look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess the kind of the parallels between fasting and the Walls Protocol, and I guess obviously with the Walls Protocol also encouraging fasting in some capacity, it's kind of going back to that sort of primitive man, or as humans in their early stages, we weren't meant to eat constantly and have 3 square meals a day, and we weren't meant to have the same foods all year round, lots of grain and all the things that were grown during the Second World War and around that time. We're supposed to eat food seasonally. We're not supposed to eat every hour awake. So I guess it makes sense to that in that degree, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it does. It does, definitely.
Yeah.
They definitely didn't have crackers or potato chips.
Yeah. And all these delicious foods. Yeah.
Exactly. None of
Although I really love popcorn. So actually that seems to be.
Hey, that's a good one.
There we go. Yeah. I mean, I like sweet and salty popcorn. So maybe less of the sweet, perhaps if it's a bit too much sugar.
But the sweet, I mean, if it's just sugar, the problem would be sugar. But sugar is not it per se. It's not forbidden on the Walls Protocol.
But we know we shouldn't have too much of that anyway, and perhaps yeah. Okay, and like I said, you don't want to limit yourself too much straight away. Gradual and enjoy some things here and there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you can just like have a little bit less of gluten-containing foods and dairy-containing foods, and maybe then little by little you'll start noticing a little bit of an improvement.
Yeah. And that's that kind of positive reinforcement then, isn't it? Where I'm seeing a benefit, I'm feeling a benefit. So it's a little bit easier to give up. Or like going out and getting really drunk, the bad times are going to come the next morning. So yeah, it's that give and take, isn't it? But no, I think that's really interesting. And you've certainly explained it well to me. I think I understand it better. And I think I need to spend a bit of time familiarizing myself with it a bit more. I guess with how you found you couldn't really sit down and read and things on the metro and things like that. I also have ADHD, so I find sitting down and reading a book, I just get, my mind wanders, I get too distracted. So I did download the audiobook as well of the Walls Protocol. So perhaps, as I go to bed tonight, I can stick my headphones in and just absorb it as I sleep, hopefully. And
or as you meditate.
Yeah, well, there we go. Yeah, that's it. I'm just going to be combined whilst I'm doing, a warrior pose or something at the same time. We can this super diet it'll be, won't it? Yeah. What have you found the hardest thing? Hardest thing's been to give up then when you've, as you sort of moved into the diet?
Well, as I mentioned, I grew up in Italy, so definitely pasta.
Yeah, yes, big pasta fan.
Yeah, but then as time went on, I started discovering some pretty good pasta alternatives, like non-gluten containing pasta alternatives.
Yeah.
So like pasta made out of what's it called? Oatmeal and corn. There's a pasta made like that, and it's actually quite good.
Yeah.
Consistency wise and taste wise, it's not half bad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, I have to give that a try. I suppose with pasta dishes, it can depend a lot on what you put with it, what the sauces may be, or what's accompanying it. It's not very rare you would make a bowl of plain pasta. So I guess you can accommodate maybe or compensate rather for a little bit of a different experience. But no, it's
absolutely. But one word of advice, though, one word of caution is that once you go gluten-free, be careful of all those products that say, like, for example, gluten-free bread or gluten-free something, because they do tend to be much more expensive than regular bread. Okay. So that's when you're better off just like saying, all right, you know what? I'm just going to give up on bread altogether.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I suppose it's a case of, right, I'm not allowed this food. I'm not going to eat the fake version or the pretend version. I'm just going to find the things that I can eat and that I can enjoy. And take more advantage of those. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I had toast this morning, strangely, but typically I don't have a lot of bread as it is, really, unless it's maybe garlic bread with some pasta or
that's good.
I guess, okay, garlic tortilla, something or others, maybe, or I like nice and spicy food. Maybe a more Mexican based diet might be the answer. Maybe that'll be the easy one to do. Lots of fresh vegetables and things like that. No,
there you go. There you go.
Good. I definitely would miss pizza, but you can make. I think a friend of mine just had a bit of an. I mean, my sister-in-law, she's celiac, she's gluten intolerant, so she often. I mean, again, she will have a little treat here and there as well, but really sort of uncomfortable effects afterwards. Doesn't feel great. But a friend of mine was sort of feeling a bit bloated and just wasn't feeling himself. My best friend Chris, and I think he went gluten-free for a while, and I'm sure because he likes to make his own pizzas, was able to sort of make a bit of a dough that was, I'm sure it was gluten-free. There may be some ways around it, but we have made tortilla pizzas for the kids as well sometimes, like on a tortilla base. So that's, they're not that bad. So,
do you send me the recipe for that?
Yeah. Based on my cooking, it's a very simple but I'll do some recommendations and definitely send them your way. But no,
yes, please.
Gonna have to give that a go. One thing I wanted to ask as well, but we kind of went down the route with the yoga and the diets and stuff. Just going back to your time when sort of just after you were diagnosed. Sorry to sort of throw us back in the mix there, but how did you find the healthcare system where you were during your diagnosis, and how does it compare to that in Spain? Have you noticed much differences, or what's the sort of biggest differences, and are there any challenges in either one, do you think?
Well, luckily they're pretty similar in that the coverage is 100% covered by the state, by Social Security. The problem that I found with the Danish system was that there wasn't really, like every time I went to the hospital to get a checkup, it would be a different doctor.
Oh, okay.
So there wasn't like that sort of personal relation with the doctor. Yeah. Whereas here in Spain, I know that every time I go to the hospital, it's going to be the same doctor checking me, and she knows me, and you know, I know her, and I know that I can joke around, and I know that I can say like, well, last time I was here, and she's going to know what I'm referring to. Whereas when I was in Denmark, it was like, well, I have to rewind and explain everything from the beginning, like how it started. And that was a little bit tiring.
I can imagine,
especially
just
when
having to. Well, so having to explain yourself every time, particularly just after your diagnosis as well, like reliving this whole journey every single time must have been draining.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, when we don't have that much energy, we want to save some energy, and by not having to explain the whole thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And yet we had to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's changed a bit now. I'm not sure. Hopefully,
maybe
as we understand more about MS, hopefully they've made some changes. But certainly, I'm pleased that the experience in Spain is a much, or certainly is a one that you experience better and are more comfortable with. It's certainly, Have you gone on to have any disease modifying treatments? Is there one or two you've tried, or have you tried to sort of go down different routes?
I've tried the whole, a lot of different treatments. Yeah. I started with Avonex, then went on to Dietary, then Gilenya, and then currently on Ocrevus. Okay. And I've been on that treatment for the past 3 years.
Almost got a full bingo card.
Yeah, exactly.
I've done them all. I have heard some really positive things recently, though, about Ocrevus, and I know they're doing more trials with bringing other people onto it. It seems it can be. Is it more of an aggressive one? But I guess with that, you're seeing some better results. Is it so far so good?
Well, I wouldn't call it aggressive because honestly, there's zero side effects compared to the other treatments that I've been on. Zero side effects. Wow. I just go to the hospital, lie there for 6 hours. Yeah, around 6 hours, getting the infusion. And then I get out of the hospital and as if nothing had happened, as if I just had a pretty pleasant nap. I consider my day off.
Yeah. Just meditation.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be a good time. You can't go anywhere. Yeah. Okay. That's really good to hear. And I'm glad that you're doing well on it and it's going well. And I guess with all the disease modifying treatments, it's that, if we find one that works really well for everybody, then everybody gets to kind of move over onto that session. And do you find as you're leading up to your next bout of treatment, do you notice symptoms worsening?
I want to say yes, but in reality, not really. I think it's the worsening I feel is more related to the fact that I know that I'm running out of medication, but I think I just generally feel the same. I mean, as it is, even right after the treatment, I still have ups and downs, good days and bad days.
Of course.
So I wouldn't say that it's always before getting the treatment that I get bad days.
Yeah, at least then as well that if you are having bad days and I'm having my treatment soon, so I can endure this for a short term and then I'll be back on my feet and feeling better.
Yeah,
that's good to hear.
Well, there is a term being thrown around, the crap gap, which is the time leading up to the next treatment.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I'm gonna.
But luckily, but luckily, I can't say that I've experienced a crap gap.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I'm pleased. That's really great to hear. One thing, obviously, that I want to just touch on a little bit more because it's how we met. And for those watching that haven't seen your channel, Life of Seb is your YouTube channel, and it's been something that you've been working on to talk about multiple sclerosis and your experiences and things like that. What made you decide to go down the YouTube route, and how have you found the overall experience and the community that lives on that space?
Wow. All right. So now we're talking about 8 years ago. I started this as I came out of my depression and came to terms with my medical condition, and I accepted the fact that I had it. Yet at the time, I remember that I was desperately looking around for other people living with multiple sclerosis on social media, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, Facebook groups. Yet I felt like maybe I didn't look well enough, but I felt like I couldn't find anything on YouTube. I wanted to see live people. I want to see what they looked like, what they sounded like when they talked. Yet I couldn't find any examples of that. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start my own channel, and then at least I'm going to be, as a form of self-therapy. I'm going to be talking about it in a way to appease my thoughts and to feel like it was a way of letting my feelings breathe and run free. And that's why my channel became a bit of a stream of consciousness channel, because in the end, it's really just me talking about different topics. And as I talk about them, I just let myself, show some skin and talk about, the thoughts that pop into my mind as I think about the topic.
And I find that really cathartic. I find that really, methodical and almost a way of journaling, I guess, and getting the thoughts out of your head and doing something positive. But then the response and the kind comments that you get from that are just so lovely. Yeah,
absolutely.
How have you found the reaction?
Incredible. There's so much support to be gained from the community, and they're all just there for you, and they're so thankful for you being there for them. Mm-hmm. It's like it's really like a two-way thing. You give to them, but they give to you as well.
Yeah.
It's a very generous community.
Yeah, and one that I've just fallen in love with and connected with so many amazing people and discovered so many amazing people such as yourself. It's been so great to follow your journey, and I'm almost making more time now to catch up with those that I want to see and the real MS stories that we want to see, and that, I guess, vulnerability and transparency that other people with MS who perhaps don't know anyone else with MS really relate to and resonate to. Is that the sort of experience that you found?
Absolutely. Yeah. Very positive experience altogether.
Yeah. You touched on Instagram a little bit as well. Is that something you're looking to do more of?
Sort of. Either that, or I start a new Instagram channel completely dedicated to my life with multiple sclerosis. Because I feel like it's an Instagram channel that was born pre-MS diagnosis, and that as the years went on, there's been a little bit of it's been blended with the yoga community. So like there are too many things blended together in there. Yeah. So yes, I don't feel like talking about MS entirely on that profile will be that appropriate, perhaps.
I think you're right, because I mean, I've always, any sort of video you may have watched about YouTube in general, and other social media platforms, tends to be, it's like, find your niche and the audience will grow from that. And I think you're right. If you try and blend too many topics in one space, you're going to, just confuse people and not have it. But I've found recently some real support from the Instagram community, and I find that it's an ever growing space. I think because you do see a lot of that kind of generation of people who are just so used to social media and having Instagram being a big part of their life, that almost the first thing they do after diagnosis is, right, I'm going to start an Instagram, and that's how I'm going to process it. So it's really supportive. And I think, I would definitely encourage you to have a dedicated page, join in with the, with all the fun and support and stuff and memes that get posted around. And it's a great way as well to share some of the clips and things from videos that you might post on YouTube, and direct a few people that way as well who want some of that longer form content. So get hashtag get Seb on Insta must be a new one. We have to focus. Obviously, really appreciate you joining me on the MS Mindset. It's a really new sort of avenue that I'm going down, and it's been a great reason to finally catch up and get to know each other. And there's a couple of questions that I've so far asked the guys that have already been on. Sort of two similar questions, but from a different take. But firstly, what would be the advice you would give to yourself if you could go back to that moment when you found out you had MS? What would you say to that? What would you say to 2013 Seb?
Ooh,
Not to put you on the spot.
No. Because I would say some pretty strong things to myself. I think the person that I was at the time would have been a very fragile Seb, very scared of a lot of things. So what I would say to him would be that, fear not. You're actually stronger than you know. And you're going to discover a much stronger version of yourself, and you're going to feel so much more empowered, and you're going to feel more proud of yourself than you are currently. And you're going to have reasons for that. And the reason for that will be that you live with this unpredictable condition, and yet here you are, and you will come out of this 10 years from now being an empowered person. And there's nothing to be afraid of. And Seb, just know that it's not going to be that bad.
That's amazing. Wow. That's caught me off guard, that really. That's like a really emotional sort of, pep talk, I guess, to your younger self, and testament to the resilience that you've built and the happy life that you've made for yourself, despite a condition like MS. So no, it's an amazing answer to a question. Thank you for that. And lastly, then, in a similar take, what would be the piece of advice you would give to someone who is newly diagnosed, who's just discovered that they have MS?
Don't be afraid to be sad, to let yourself mourn, to cry, to find someone's shoulder to cry on. Just let yourself be vulnerable. You will have plenty of time to be strong. And as you let yourself be vulnerable, you will find that strength, the strength that you will need later on in life. And yeah.
So that two amazing answers. Thank you. Like, we're going to get a couple of, a good few cracking clips out of this this podcast. So, really great answers and some great advice as well. So thank you for that. That's great. And hopefully, if anyone is watching that's newly diagnosed, just know that there's a big community of Sebs and Liams and other people on Instagram and YouTube that are here to support you and offer great advice like that.
We're here together.
So, we are, absolutely. No, that's brilliant. So Life of Seb on YouTube, I will definitely, obviously this will be on YouTube, so it'll be up here somewhere and down in the whatever.
Cross-reference.
Yes, it is. We're going to come together. Absolutely. I'll tag you and everything and post your channel all over the description and it'll be popping up throughout the episode.
Amazing.
Anyone who hasn't checked out your channel, please go and subscribe to Seb, because he's an amazing guy. He's an inspiration and someone that I love to keep a track on and follow. That I'm talking to the third person, and follow your advice. And you've been a great strength to me as well. So thank you for everything that you do. And appreciate
thank you, Liam, for inviting me to this interview. I think it's a great project that you have going on here.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And when I decided to do it, you were one of the first people I thought of and thought I have to get Seb on. So I appreciate you jumping on, even though you are an hour in the past, technically somewhere. I'm speaking to 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock Seb, and it's now half. So we're time differences, but we've made it happen.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your time. And I will look forward to catching up with you again. Hopefully in the future we can jump on and do some more shows like this if you have the time, and we can
absolutely. We're connected there, commenting on each other's channels. So absolutely,
we'll definitely stay in touch.
We'll stay in touch.
Love it. So thanks everyone for checking out the video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I look forward to bringing you more and more. I'm like talking to the camera, but I'm looking for how to stop recording. There we are. Try that again. Thanks for checking out today's episode. Subscribe if you haven't already, and subscribe to Life of Seb, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.